Hey people, it's Zach, and let's check the weather today. Well, that's a problem.
I don't know about you guys, but when I was in school, I loved the book Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. It was a book about food falling from the sky, every 9-year-old's dream. Like, honey, your grandpa's dying and you wrote this on your Christmas list? I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. Imagine a pancake the size of your entire city slowly falling from the sky, blocking all the sunlight as you hear the terrified screams of people who know their lives are about to end, and then those screams get muffled as people slowly start suffocating to death underneath the giant pancake.
9-year-old me had a lot of issues.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs was created by Judy Barrett and illustrated by Ron Barrett, and they got the book published on August 1st, 1978. Judy Barrett has written a few other children's books, but does anybody really care about an excessive alphabet?
No.
And then there's Rob Barrett, who illustrated this book. He's illustrated several other books for Judy Barrett, but does anybody really care about an excessive alphabet?
I get it, no!
Anyways, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is a book about a town called Chew and Swallow, and in this town, food rains from the sky 3 times a day. It works out great for everybody. The residents get food, the extra food gets cleaned up, and some of it is given to stray animals in the streets, and 9-year-old Zach gets to cry about how he's not there. But then the food starts to turn into all these natural disasters, like spaghetti tornadoes, and everybody starts freaking out.
Yeah, well, down here in Oklahoma, tornadoes are a normal part of our lives. One time I was walking to school, a tornado touched down in front of me, and I just walked around it.
Eventually it becomes too dangerous to stay in the town, so the townsfolk craft boats out of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and they sail to a new town, and they live happily ever after, except now they have to buy their own groceries and actually cook meals for themselves.
Obviously, some big sacrifices were made.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs went on to become a pretty big success, and today it's a popular children's book. And of course, when a book becomes popular, it has to watch out for the movie adaptation monster coming after them.
And the movie adaptation monster usually wins.
And this case is no different. In 2003, Sony Pictures Animation officially announced they were making a Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs film. If 9-year-old Zach saw that announcement, he would have clapped until his hands bled. Now, originally, the Brizzy brothers were supposed to direct the film, but they were later replaced by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Now, today they're both pretty big names. They've worked on Clone High, the Lego Movie, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and they're working on Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. All of these movies have been regarded as some of the greatest animated films the industry has to offer. What I'm trying to say is that these two can make some awesome movies, and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is another awesome addition to their catalog. From what I could find, they started the script in 2006 until they were fired. Just gonna cut this up. They were apparently fired because they were having issues with the story, so they were replaced by new writers, but then they were also fired, so Phil and Christopher were brought back on. But then they were almost fired again, this time because the head of Sony Pictures criticized the lack of story in the story. Luckily, they were able to improve the story, and after adding and removing a lot of things, they finally settled on the script we know and love today. The film was released on September 18th, 2009, and received pretty good reviews from critics. They liked the slapstick humor and all the characters, but some didn't like how crazy and unpredictable it can be.
I personally like most of the humor in this film, and I'll show you it after we look at the box art.
So, right off the bat, monkey with a headband.
I've seen all that I need to.
It's raining big food and big laughs. Somebody needs to put these quotes on t-shirts. On the side, monkey with a headband again. Then on the back, monkey with a headband again.
You know, I'm starting to think there might be a monkey with a headband in this movie.
A perfect storm of humor, heart, and hot dogs. Somebody please put that on a shirt. Includes both full screen and theatrical widescreen versions? Thank goodness. I haven't really had a good streak with widescreen movies, so I'm glad they're giving us this option. And look, monkey with a headband. For the disc art? Time to start the movie. So we begin Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs with young Flint, and he's showing his class spray-on shoes.
Yeah, when you find out how to get the best skins in Fortnite, then we'll talk. Until then, get lost, nerd.
He can't get his spray-on shoes off, so he just has to wear them for the rest of his life, I guess. What's the worst that could happen besides foot fungus? His mom sees how distressed her child is, so she gives him a lab coat and he draws a picture of himself and stares at it, then he goes to his weird treehouse thing and starts creating sparks. I don't know if a treehouse is the best place to do that, but whatever, I've only burned down 24.5 buildings in my life, so I'm not an expert. Then we're catapulted into the present, and Flint introduces us to Swallow Falls. It used to be home to Baby Brent's sardine factory until the world realized that sardines
are super gross.
So I guess everybody in town is stuck eating the leftover sardines, since they can't afford to get food imported to the island anymore, but Flint's determined to create a machine that transforms water into food.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Well, he starts planning out and building the machine, and then it comes time to test it. And then he destroys the breaker.
Baby Brent sabotaged him!
He heads down to try and repair the breaker, but then his dad appears out of nowhere and basically tells him,
"Your inventions suck and you're a loser, so come work for me at my bait and tackle shop because that's somehow a more respectable job."
and Flint does, even though he's literally a grown man, but I guess he doesn't want to get kicked out of his treehouse lab, but he could also probably build his own house and lab somewhere else, but that's not what we're here for, okay? We're here for this.
Look out, baby Brent! Uh-oh.
No, we are not here for that!
Baby Brent breaks into the tackle shop, acts like the most creepy person in the world, and then he leaves. We also see that the mayor is holding a grand unveiling ceremony at noon. Flint's dad decides to go, and he leaves Flint in charge, but once he leaves, Flint takes his machine and heads to the power center. His plan is to hook up his machine to the machines and get the power that he needs. How much power does he need to get 17,000 gigajoules? A lightning strike is 5 gigajoules. And lightning strikes are deadly! The mayor acts super evil for a few seconds, but then he goes back to normal, and we also get to see Sam Sparks. She's a reporter. Well, actually, she's an intern, but she's getting sent to Swallow Falls to report on the grand opening, since nobody else wants to hang out around Baby Brent. We cut back to Flint, and he gets the machine hooked up to the 17,000 gigajoules he needs, and he turns it on. What the residents should see now is... But nope, instead he gets turned into a rocket and he starts flying all around the town and destroying stuff. But that's not important. What is Sardine Land. Look, they have rides, a museum, and the world's largest sardine. Yeah, when you have the world's largest tornado like we do, let me know. Flint and his machine fly over and destroy Sardine Land, and the machine flies into the sky, never to be seen again. And as for Flint, he becomes hated by the entire town, including his dad, and he runs away. He's sitting by the dock when Sam comes over and whacks him in the eyeball.
17,000
She's all upset because he ruined her news report earlier, but then pieces of food start falling from the sky. And then everybody watches in wonder as cheeseburgers start falling from the clouds. The townspeople finally don't have to eat Baby Brent anymore. I should have worded that better. Flint takes Sam back to his lab to show her how he makes the food, and he creates a machine that lets him control what falls from the sky. Meanwhile, Sam gets to watch funny cat videos for like 3 hours. It ends up working, and the next day it starts raining eggs and bacon and orange juice. So Flint goes from having the whole town hate him to the whole town loving him, and he starts making it rain food from the sky 3 times a day, every day. The mayor has a plan to reopen the town in 30 days and have it be a tourist attraction. Chew and swallow. We don't ask where it comes from, we just eat it. But Flint's dad doesn't seem too happy with his son, and he asks him if he wants to work in a tackle shop since that's somehow better than making it rain waffles. He says no, of course, and he goes back to his lab. But then Earl, the policeman guy, annoys him and says he wants it to rain ice cream for his son Calvin's birthday, and at first Flint says no because the dangeometer is too high. But after ignoring the potential risks like all smart people do, he agrees to do it, and the next day, Cal wakes up to an ice cream snow day. All the kids go out and play, and Flint invites everybody in the world to the town for the grand opening.
No thanks, I'm afraid of the letter A.
Flint also decides to work up the courage to call Sam and ask her out on an activity with him, so later that day they meet in the forest and Flint shows her a giant jello castle.
Wow, now do shrimp, then I'll be impressed.
They hop around and have fun for a little while until Sam almost suffocates under the jello, but luckily Flint cloned her, so he just brings in Sam 2. While Sam 1 dies, Sam 2 starts telling Flint about her childhood and how she was made fun of because she wanted to be a weather girl.
Just become a YouTuber or something, because that's somehow a more respectable job.
She eventually stopped showing her interest in all of that, but Flint puts her glasses and ponytail back on her, and now she looks like she's 15. Flint falls and dies, so his ghost takes his dad to this restaurant that doesn't have a roof on it, and the steaks just magically land on the plates and not on the floor. Flint's dad wants him to turn off the machine since the food is starting to get bigger, but Flint wants to keep going since the town is finally starting to love him. But as he's walking home, he finally realizes how big the food is getting when a hot dog almost murders him. Although I guess it really can't since he's a ghost. When he takes it back to the lab, he discovers that the cells have mutated since there's too much radiation, I think. I don't know, do we look like the same person?
What?
But then the mayor manifests himself inside Flint's lab, and he tries to convince him not to shut down the machine since everybody will hate him for it. And eventually he gets convinced not to, and he orders food for the next day, but then the machine starts to glitch out. The next day is the big grand opening ceremony, and there's a bunch of tourists, and everybody's all pumped up for the grand opening. Except Sam 2, who busts out her old weather computer, and she sees a massive storm brewing up, but when she tries to show Flint, he doesn't care, and he goes out to cut the ribbon. Baby Brent somehow manages to top himself again on how creepy he can be, and Flint gets the ceremonial scissors and cuts the ribbon. But I guess Sam 2's computer was right, because right after he cuts it, a spaghetti tornado appears and starts destroying the town. Flint heads back to his house to shut the machine down, and since he's a ghost, he doesn't have to worry about dying, but when he arrives at the lab, he finds that the mayor has once again manifested himself there. And he's been in there ordering a Vegas-style all-you-can-eat buffet. Flint tries to stop the order with a kill code, but the mayor throws a radish at him and the console gets destroyed. Meanwhile, Sam 2 starts a broadcast and warns the rest of the world that a giant food apocalypse is happening. It's all Flint's fault, so he decides to throw himself away along with all of his useless inventions. But his dad shows him his lab coat, and I guess that gives him the motivation he needs to save the town. So he goes back to the lab and he designs...
Fine Kart 2!
Meanwhile, all the townsfolk are dying or almost dying, and when Flint tells them he's gonna try to save the town, they respond by trying to kill him. That is until Earl the policeman guy shows up and gives them all a speech, and then he slaps Flint.
You can slap ghosts?
Sam decides to go with him since he needs someone to help navigate, and Brent wants to come along too?
No!
He's been nothing but creepy this entire movie. Is he finally ready to mature a little bit?
No!
They head off in their flying car, and as they approach the machine, a bunch of food starts attacking them. Luckily, Manny is able to maneuver around all of it, and they arrive at the entrance. All they have to do is keep going straight down, and they'll get to the machine. Dang it, Brent! Now they're in a cave full of a bunch of chickens, and one of them eats Brent.
You have done a great service to the world, chicken.
Doesn't matter, though, because Brent takes over the chicken's body and is now Chicken Brent.
I am never calling him that.
Oh, and at the same time this is all going on, Flint's dad is trying to send him the kill code via email since he lost the USB drive earlier. They find a hole that's full of peanut brittle, but Sam 2 is allergic to peanut brittle, so she sends Flint down, but he slips and she gets cut with some of it and she starts having an allergic reaction. Flint cuts the licorice rope and falls down the pit, and Sam 2 gets taken back to the flying car. Flint finds the machine and sneaks over to it, but it turns out his dad sent him the wrong file, so he's gonna die for a second time. Until he remembers his spray-on shoes spray. I don't know why he had it on hand, but it doesn't matter because he sacrifices himself and the machine blows up and the world goes back to normal. Sam 2, Manny, and Brant make it back to town, and Sam 2 tells Flint's dad about his death. But then Flint appears being carried by a bunch of rat birds, and everybody cheers, and he and Sam 2 kiss apple pie.
So that was your forecasted cloudy with a chance of meatballs, and a side of Zach really likes this movie.
I like a lot of the jokes, and while it is a lot different from the book, I think that's a good thing. I don't think book adaptations necessarily have to follow the book to a T, rather they just need to have the same general story premise, which this movie does. It's almost sort of like a prequel though, because while in the book it's raining food from the very beginning, here we get to learn why that is. Oh, and the monkey with the headband is pretty cool too. I know his name is actually Steve, but I like monkey with a headband better. So when the storm is all said and done on the Zacker Attacker movie Raider, I'll give this a 9 out of 10. A solid movie with solid jokes and solid characters.
So yeah, there you go. I like this movie. They did release a sequel, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, and I've never actually watched this all the way through before, so it'll be interesting to see how it is. I personally don't feel like this movie was written with a sequel in mind, but maybe it'll work, it's happened before. So until next time, remember to lock your doors and protect your children from baby Brent. Seriously, this guy is the literal embodiment of pedophiles.